eating right. I hate to see the night. I exist, but that don't classify as life. Always did right. But what
Good afternoon to each and every one of you. We would like to first say thank you for joining us again right here live in Intellectual Radio Studio, where we're about to attack It's the Truth, whether you like it or not. I am in the studio with some amazing people this morning, with our amazing host, Pastor Shanair Austin.
What's up? What's up?
My lovely co-host, Miss Melinda, aka
Hello.
Wisdom
Hey.
Proverbs.
Hey, everybody.
And we also have some in-studio guests that we would like to share with you today. We have Miss Alicia Sanders, an amazing author. We're going to give her an opportunity to introduce herself. So just tell the people hello right now.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Glad to meet you.
We also have with us Mr. Robert Reed. This is an honor because we usually don't have males to come into the studio with us, but he is our first in-house male guest, and we are excited to have him, Mr. Robert Reed, aka Bobzilla. You can give us some definition behind that at a later time, but
Okay. How y'all doing today?
again, we are excited that each one of you have joined us. We have a very hot topic today, and that topic is, Pastor Shanair, what is it?
Where do I go from here? Life after the breakup.
Life after the break.
We're so I just want to welcome our guests today and thank you guys for showing up today. I want to do a real quick game. I want to play this game called One Word. One word. I'm gonna say something. You just give me one word behind it.
Okay.
So if I say sky, you give me one word behind that. So I'm gonna start with you, Miss Wisdom Proverbs.
Sure.
You're gonna get your camera right. All right.
Okay.
Exes.
Trouble.
All right. Alicia, time.
Time. T-I-M-E.
Mm-hmm.
Don't waste it.
Don't waste it. Bobzilla, relationships.
Maintenance.
All right. That's a good one. All right. I like that. Kenyatta, dating.
Complicated.
Complicated.
That's what I said.
All right.
Shanair.
What?
Love.
Perplexing.
Okay.
Yeah. So listen, we've been here and we've been discussing these relationship topics today, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in and your comments, your feedback. Thank you so much for being a part of this movement that we call It's the Truth, whether you like it or not, because it is the truth, whether you like it or not.
Right.
And so I thank all who are tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on IntellectualRadio.com. We're on YouTube. It will be on also on iHeartRadio. I gotta remember not to say that. Yeah. I gotta remember not to say that. We have a policy here. You can't say all the time. You saying okay. I got it. That was my last right there.
Thank you.
So I got you, Earl. Praise God. So listen, some comments came out. People were saying, like when we begin the show, sometimes I give a story, and a biblical story. Well, let me say this to all my listeners. We have different people from different vocations, different walks of life. Melinda is from Wakanda. Amen. So she's going to speak. She's going to speak the Wakandan language.
That's right.
Kenyatta is the church girl. So she's going to give a choir song every now and then.
Excuse me.
I'm just playing.
I'll represent all times. I'll represent. Go ahead.
She represent. All right. So I'm a pastor, and I like biblical stories. I read the Bible. I preach from the Bible, teach from it. So I always find stories that are very relevant to the topics that we're dealing with today. And I'll never forget one story that I love is the story of a man named Joshua, who one day he was at the point of taking over leadership and leading the children of Israel into the promised land. Prior to him making this movement, all of a sudden the Lord showed up and told him, Moses, my servant, is dead. That was an interesting comment he made to him, or statement he made to him. He said, Moses, my servant, is dead. They already knew that Moses was dead. So the question is, why did God have to show up and tell Joshua that? Well, the reason was because they had a period of mourning for 30 days and they overstepped that period. They were stuck in this place of mourning because the relationship they once had was no longer there. It had died. The man that once led them, that once took care of them, that once gave them hope and inspiration, the man that once supported everything with them was now dead. He was no longer there. And they were crying over him. They were mourning over over the loss. And what we want to discuss today, we want to bring to the forefront today, what I've discovered, even from that story, is that after the death of a relationship, people tend to not move forward because of the grief that's associated with the breakup. I've had relationships that I've come out of, and I'm telling you, some of them was hard for me to move forward. I found myself in these stuck places, in these places of that where I was paralyzed in the pain of it and the trauma of it. And so I really want to give conversation to that today, because what I'm discovering through counseling and meeting people is that people really don't know where to go after they've suffered a breakup. And I discovered one of the reasons being is because a relationship, once you've been in a relationship for a significant amount of time, where you invested energy, your heart, all that stuff into that relationship, what tends to happen is that once it dies, people don't understand. They don't know how to process the death of it. And when it dies, they don't understand the whole concept of death, because what they see death is as the end. And, you know, I've been doing funerals for a long time. And what I discovered is that folk don't know how to handle the funeral. They come to the funeral, try to snatch the body out the casket, do all types of crazy stuff, fall all on the floor. I have to get like 10 ushers and 80 deacons to come pick them up. People get to fighting at funerals, all that crazy stuff. And it's primarily because they don't understand what death is. They think death is the end, but really death is just a transition. It transitions you from one place to the other. And so people have to understand that when it comes to the death of a relationship, it's just a transition. But people don't know how to make that transition. And so we want to get conversation to that. So we'll start with you, Alicia. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's going on in your world?
Oh, let's see. I would like to, let's see, where should I start? Well, I'm from Texas, first of all.
Texas in the house.
Yay. Dallas, Texas, to be exact. Chicago is part of my life because I spent part of my childhood growing up here. But my mother, being from the countryside of Texas, she couldn't handle that. So she moved back to Texas and told my dad, you want to keep this family, you're going to have to come south. And that's exactly what he did. Almost 40 years later, he's still there. But I'm from Texas. I moved up here for job opportunity with the federal government that I was offered maybe about 2.5 years ago. And I've been trying my hand at living here in Chicago. Love the city. And just looking forward to immersing myself in the culture. And the book project that I was a part of was part of me actually, immersing myself in the culture. It was an opportunity that came up. So, I don't know, that's it.
Okay.
Is there anything specific?
No. You said we're gonna get to you, because we want to talk about your book, because you have an excerpt in the book, and we read it real briefly.
Oh.
We mentioned the name, and you kind of shuddered and had a look on your face. So we want to talk about that.
Caught me off guard.
Yeah, no, I see it. We're gonna talk about that on the show today. Yeah, we're gonna do that.
Just caught me off guard.
Yeah, it's still there. Okay, all right, yeah.
Now that I have you on guard, I had to think about who is that?
No, you remember who he is now. Come on now.
No, but that's a fake name, so I had to remember who.
Right, I understand.
Okay.
So let's put a face to this name.
Well, let's talk Bob. What's up with Bob? What's going on in your world, man?
How you guys doing? I'm Bobzilla. I got a lot of projects I'm working on right now. I dwell in the entertainment field, and by day I'm also in the social services. I have 19 years in the social service field. So that's the alter ego, so to say, the Bobby Reed. So let's talk about Bobby Reed. Bobby Reed experience pretty much deal with aspects of homelessness, the HIV population, housing, mental health, pretty much any social aspect you could think about, within the African American community population.
Okay.
I've also worked and done counseling within the jail system as well. So I pretty much got a heart, got a heart for the streets, a heart for community, and a heart for overall betterment and development.
Awesome, man. We need more brothers out there leading the field on trying to push our culture forward and help us become better people. And so we definitely salute you today. Thank you for being on the show too, man, because it's hard to get brothers on the show talking about relationship stuff. Because guys really don't want to talk about it. Sisters ready to talk about it. They're ready to go in and say, hey, listen, that Negro was no good and he broke my heart, or I'm living the life now. But man, brothers, man, so we salute you that you're here today, because it's hard to get brothers on. So let's get right to it. We're not going to even, sugarcoat it. Breaking up is hard. Let's be real. It's hard. And as a matter of fact, I've discovered people don't know what to do after you've come through a bad relationship. Lisa, tell us, have you had a bad relationship? Well, I'm quite sure you have, but tell us your experience in that.
Well, I have had a bad relationship experience before. The breakup was pretty terrible, and I can actually remember that for almost a year after we broke up. I don't even remember the sun shining.
Oh wow!
I was on autopilot in terms of going through the daily activities of life, work, school, church, and the breakup was pretty bad. And like I said, it took me about a year, but I remember one day I just woke up and decided I was done grieving, and literally eulogized that situation in my mind. So much so to the point that when he contacted me, there was no emotion.
Oh, wow.
No emotion. I was like, it's just time for you to move on. There's nothing here for you.
So the relationship came back. He did a revisit, huh?
He tried to revisit a couple of times. And I actually more than a couple of times, but I wouldn't receive him.
Each time he came back, you did not receive him.
I did not receive him. And up until that final point where I actually had no emotion, there was emotion, anytime he tried to contact me. But that final time, I was like, I'm done.
Did you feed it just a little bit? Conversation, nothing. So when he would call, you just ignore the call?
Repeat that.
When he would call, would you just ignore the call?
I would ignore the call the initial times, but that final time was when the conversation happened. And he explained his point of view, what was going on. He apologized profusely, wanted me to give him, another chance because he felt like he had changed. But in my mind, I felt like it shouldn't have taken him almost a year to get to that point. And to make a long story short, just going back to the eulogizing the relationship.
That's good.
I was pleasant and cordial. I was not about tearing his head off. I recognized that he had faults. I had faults. The relationship really wasn't a good relationship to begin with. Or we shouldn't have been engaging in it because we were not for each other. But I just let him know that he needed to move on with his life because I'm moving on with mine. And that was like the last conversation we had. And that's when I remember I was done. Over the years, I've actually found that he actually looked me up and tried to send me messages through the email and social media. But I delete, quickly. I wouldn't engage it.
Let me ask you this question. You said it was about a year that you did not see the sunshine. How long was the relationship itself?
The relationship itself, it was only about 7 months.
Really?
Yes.
So this was a relationship, not a marriage.
It was not a marriage.
Okay.
It was a relationship.
So what did he do?
Not David.
If you don't mind me asking.
I'm sorry.
What did he do? If you don't mind me asking.
That particular situation, he abandoned me. In a real. I ended up pregnant, and I miscarried, and I contacted him, and he was supposed to come and see about me and see me through it. And he didn't call me back.
Oh, wow.
He didn't come see about me, which was totally outside of his character.
That was really
but I didn't hear from him for like 3 months.
How did that make you feel? I mean, when knowing that you're carrying his child and all of a sudden he's nowhere to be found.
That made me feel used. I felt used. I felt, of course, completely abandoned.
Okay.
And I was incensed, of course, because I didn't envision for my life being a single parent. So, and that's not to say that, it's a bad thing to be a single parent. People do it successfully all the time, but I didn't want that for me at that stage of my life because I was in my very early 20s.
Okay.
Now, what's interesting is that, I want to ask you this question. You say you felt abandoned because I'm doing this relationship counseling and talking with various couples or individuals. I noticed that they always bring up that word abandonment. I have to admit that was one of my issues that I had abandonment issues, and that stemmed all the way from my childhood. The question I want to ask you is that because people really don't, can you be in a relationship and feel abandoned?
I think you can.
Okay. Yeah. What made you feel his whole act or the process of him not being there made you feel abandoned within the relationship?
Not within the relationship.
Okay.
Again, like I said, this was totally outside of his character to not show up, to not call, to disappear, because he'd never done anything like that before.
Okay.
We're very close.
Now, was abandonment something you dealt with before you had issues with abandonment?
You know what? Looking in hindsight, I can say I probably did, but I wouldn't have realized that then. But then I wouldn't have realized it. But yes, looking back on it, yes, I probably did have some abandonment issues.
And see, I'm really asking these questions for other people because I truly understand abandonment issues. I had abandonment issues. And sometimes people are in relationships and they really don't know that they are suffering from abandonment issues. It wasn't until I came through a bad relationship and sought some counseling that I discovered how bad it was in me, that I suffer from abandonment issues. And so one of the things about people who suffer with abandonment issues, they usually hold on to relationships that they know they need to let go, because letting it go would be like, I don't want to abandon this relationship because if I abandon, I'm going to be doing to them what I don't like done to me. And so oftentimes people with abandonment issues really hold on to relationships that they had no business holding on to. And so how about you, Bob? What's going on, man? I know, brothers not quick to admit that they've been in some bad places, man, and some bad relationships there, and they didn't know what to do afterwards. Tell us, what about you?
To be honest with you, I think this is really twofold. It's a mature way to go about breakups, and it's a non-mature way to go about it, right? And more than anything, I believe, first of all, you have to analyze the relationship to see, because let's be honest, most people get back together. You don't even know for sure if you're going to really be broken up, initially at first. And a lot of people get right back, with their exes, very soon, So first it needs to be established, is it really over? And
have you ever struggled with that? With dealing with the whole issue of, is it really over?
I don't know if struggle is the right word. I think, to be honest with you, you really know if it's really over or not, even if you are broken up. Like, and this goes back to what I was saying about it being a mature way to look at it versus an immature way. Because if you let's take the immature way, for example, you get broken up, no matter who does it, her or you, and you just throw yourself into another woman's arms, something like that. To me, that's the immature way of looking at it. Because you guys could be back together in a month or less.
And now you're gonna hurt the other girl,
right? Yeah. And really, you probably already even know that you guys are probably going to end up getting back together, but because of the fact that you're hurt, hurt people.
That's right.
So you pretty much trying to fill a void within you. And like you said, dealing with abandonment issues, things of that nature, you don't want to feel alone. So you find yourself, being promiscuous or what have you. That's one immature way of looking at it. Maybe a healthy way of looking at it. And like I said earlier, first of all, establishing if you're going to get back with this person or not, because if you're going to get back with them, the best way is really to just chill and maintain and try to look in the mirror more than anything. Staying busy is something that a lot of people, choose to do. to take their mind off the situation, you know.
But when you're staying busy, do you think you're dealing with the situation though?
Well,
I think you're just trying to occupy your mind.
Yeah, I
Once
agree.
You sit down
You are occupying your mind, but I mean, at the end of the day, we're all human, and the alternative at times is wallowing in your sorrow, or
that's dealing with it,
being sad, or you know, not coming out the house, or being a pain at work to your coworkers. You know, in my opinion, exercising, staying busy, staying active, doing what you got to do. You know, those have always been like the best things for me. Like in situations like that, you know, I don't feel that that's hiding from the situation, because we should be staying busy and bettering ourselves anyway.
So let's make this personal. I'm sorry, you ready?
No, go ahead.
Let's make this personal. With you, what is normally your option? So, or just give me a situation where you did experience a breakup. What's usually your avenue? Do you go petty, or do you handle it like a mature man? I mean, let's be real, because you know y'all can be real petty too.
Man, we're not petty.
Petty Peter, petty Paul.
We are petty in our own way. We're
petty
very
Peter, petty Paul. Come on, what did you choose?
In the past, I admit I've been petty. You know, I've been petty.
Okay, so let's deal with the petty like.
Petty like what? Tell us.
Not really allowing myself to hurt. Not allowing myself to even think about the consequences of my actions.
No, that's being petty with you. But what did you do petty with her?
Well, I wasn't petty to an extent to where, you know, like I was doing, you know,
intentional stuff, like bringing the other boo on Facebook.
Exactly. Oh no, I wasn't.
Putting pictures of your hand on the gear.
That's reckless. That's worse.
Because I've been petty. I'm not gonna lie. I've been petty in relationships.
I don't even think petty is the right adjective to use.
Before I learned how to break up, there were times I was petty. I was very petty.
Right. I'm speaking more from an immature way of thinking. You know, for being petty.
Alicia, you ever been petty?
Semi-petty.
Define semi-petty, because
I never know.
Because I'm coming down to Melinda.
Okay. You know, this whole social media thing is real interesting,
queen
right?
petty.
Right.
I'm not queen.
No. We're talking about
queen.
That's our queen.
No, I'm not the queen.
Oh,
what is semi-petty? Give us semi-petty.
That label. No, semi-petty. Let's see. Well, you know, social media is real interesting, and
we love that Southern Belle. I want to say we love that Southern Belle accent also.
Oh, has it come through?
It's coming through.
You know what? I definitely try to hide it, but you know what?
Don't do that. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead. Petty. Tell us semi-petty. What's semi-petty?
Southern petty.
You know, I say semi-petty, but I think a better term may be passive aggressive, which I guess is just flat out petty. But
yeah.
So social media is so interesting.
So give us some things that you've done before.
You gave the clinical psychology aspect of petty.
We want street petty.
Okay. You know, I have taken to social media before, and not just flat out put all kind of business out there or anything, but just in response to some things that I saw that looked too close to what, you know, was going on between the two of us. I'm like, oh, so you want to post this comment? I got a comment for you, or post for you.
Subliminals,
but subliminal. I've done that, but you know what? I can honestly say that I did it. It didn't feel good, so I didn't continue it. Mm-hmm. But I call that semi-petty because it, you know, I didn't put the name on there. I didn't put his name on there. I didn't put who, what, when, where, how, none of that. I just made sure it was just enough for him to understand that I see you.
Because, you know, social media, and you're right about social media, it is the sanctuary for pettiness.
Yes, it is.
You know, when people break up, they may not say the person's name, but they will say something, let you know that I'm being petty right now.
I see you.
You know, they'd be like, you know, people just don't want to come get tools from over their house. They've been staying in our pad. You'd be like, we know who you're talking about. Yeah. Everybody know who you're talking about. So people are petty. So Melinda,
if they know y'all were dating.
Exactly. So Melinda,
what?
You last week's show, you talked about a guy who Earl said he called you, he renamed you. You're number 6 now.
What's my what? First of all, I was number 1. Okay.
Well, you were number no. Let me clarify that because I don't
Okay.
want you to seem like you were number 1, but you get to he got up
He
to number
got up
6
there.
times with you. Well, he cheated on you 6 times. So what were you petty?
Not with him, no. I wasn't.
You been petty though?
I have, to the degree where I have a lot of guy friends and we're just friends. But if they're around and I know the guy is calling, I would have them to answer the phone to make him think that, I've moved on or whatever the case is.
Yeah. That's pretty tough.
Yeah, I'll do that. That's about it though. But other than that, I'm usually moving about it the mature way.
So did you get the response that you wanted?
Absolutely. Showed up at my house, constantly calling, so I got a chance to treat him the way that he treated me.
So how did you feel behind it?
I felt great.
You felt great?
Yep.
So looking back on it now, do you feel good?
I sure do. I would do it again.
You're petty.
Yeah.
You're petty. Petty. Capital petty. And see, that's the thing about it. I mean, when we break up, we engage in these actions that are just so unbecoming of who we are.
Yeah.
Or who God is calling us to be. And at some point, we have to give discussion to this because everything has a manual and instructions to it. You buy a bike, has instructions to it. You buy a car, there are instructions to it. But people rarely read the instructions on how to break up or what to do after a breakup. And so we do those things. We become petty. We engage in activities that's just not becoming us. We get into other relationships to try to deal with that relationship because the reality is this: a breakup is like a funeral. It's like a death. It's like experiencing a death. And one of the 5 stages of grief happen to be denial. And so in that stage of denial, people start saying, okay, well, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe he did this to me or she did this to me, or I can't believe I made this mistake, or it's not over. And when in some cases it is over, like you were saying, Alicia, with the gentleman who, you were done, but he wasn't done. At some point, he was like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still trying to get in there. And that's that stage of denial. And many of us tend to engage in these crazy behaviors because we are in that stage of denial, that we can't accept that the relationship is over. We can't even accept what happened, let alone the relationship being over. I can't believe this person did this to me. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm listening.
So at some point, we have to deal with that because the reality is this, and I'll say this again: death is not the end. When something dies, it's not the end. It's just a transition. When someone dies physically, they make a transition from one life to the next. But it's the people on this side that have a hard time dealing with it. Mm-hmm. And so they begin to engage in crazy behaviors. I almost can point out at a funeral who gonna act crazy. Mm-hmm. I gotta be sitting there like, I know this person's about to act up, and that's because they don't understand. And so even in a relationship, if I sit down long enough with couples and talk to them, I can tell if they break up, who gonna really act the fool, because I already know their mindset and how they. And the reality is that you have to accept that things die, things change, and so it is what it is.
Well, what would you say to people who throw themselves in another situation, like as soon as their breakup is, soon as their relationship is over with?
That's you about to crash. It's just like it's unhealthy. It's not anyone who does that, because we talked about closure. Our first show we dealt with closure. Yeah. What you're doing is putting a Band-Aid on an open wound, and you need to let that thing breathe. And you need to get over what you're in first before you try to get under something else.
Right. So I believe that's a mistake that a lot of people make. You would think that someone who's in a long-term situation would want to breathe for a while, to want to get themselves better and to not go into another situation so fast. But sometimes when you're in a long situation, you're used to that commitment. Mm-hmm. You're used to that oneness. You're used to being with one person, and you're okay with being committed. Mm-hmm. So if it's maybe another person who was in the wings waiting, or someone that you have had your eye on back in the past, and they're available as well, it's an easy transition sometimes, and it also alleviates the hurt that you may feel from the situation that you just got out of.
It may be an easy transition, but it also can be a very damaging transition because you're jumping out of one thing, jumping into something else, but that something else, which is the other person, you're just using them at that time. And it's not, I mean, that's just unfair because if their feelings and their emotions start, moving around, you're just a temporary salve to this issue that I have going on right now. So that's very dangerous. But we do it, to occupy our time and to, not sit at home or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, you're opening up a door to something else that could be very dangerous.
I totally agree.
And see, one of the things that we have to come to grips with is that once the relationship dies, there is something you need to do. But doing what is it you need to do is the question, and many of us don't know what should I be doing? Where should I be going? How should I handle this entire situation? Because, looking back, some situations that I came out of, it was real hard for me. I have to admit. And it was even hard for me when I made the mistake. If I did something wrong, I struggled with trying to process where I am now. Because our parents didn't sit us down and say, hey, listen, this is what you do when you get out of a bad relationship. Parents usually run to your aid and be like, forget them. Just that fast. They be like, get that Negro. You good. Move on. But at some point we have to give discussion to this and find out, what do we do? Where do we go from here? Because where you land is going to be very important.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask you said something earlier, Alicia. You said something about, you said, why do you said about you were in a relationship that you shouldn't have been in. So the question I want to ask, why do we engage in relationships that we know we shouldn't be in? Because the reality is this, before we get in it and get deep in it, we already know we shouldn't be in it.
No, taboo.
You trying to say different?
No, I'm saying
you
know.
Yeah, you already know that. So the question is, you knew you weren't supposed to be in that relationship. Why did you get in?
To be honest, looking back at my 20-something-year-old self, I really believe I was more physically attracted to him and his charisma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He had that, some people call it animal magnetism. Others call it other things, but that charisma, and he was an attractive, young man. And so he charmed me. And, at the time, I can even recall when he met my mother and my grandmother. And my mother was like, I don't know about him. He's a little fast.
She called him
in
fast.
Personality.
Right.
But she may have been meaning something else. But my grandmother picked up on it instantly, and she literally, she pulled me to the side and she told me, she said, baby, he's too fast for you.
Mm-hmm.
Was that because you was from the South and he was a city boy or what?
No, we were both from Texas.
Okay.
We both grew up pretty much in the same neighborhood. We both pretty much had the same experience. It was just, he was out there a little, he was more of a party animal. He was more lively and more social than I am. I'm a little more
reserved,
laid back and reserved.
Mm-hmm.
I have my moments when I can break out of my shell.
So it's like opposites attract.
That probably was what the case was.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You wanted him to show you a fun time.
So you went after him because of his.
I didn't go after him.
Oh, well, let me rewind the tape. Let me get this right.
Be clear.
He came after you, and you just, here I am, and you gave in, basically, correct?
Well, he chased me, and I don't like that term chase, but he pursued me.
Pursued you, okay.
But I eventually, let my guard down and was like, okay, I was like, I'll give him a try. Give him a chance.
So my question is this: so you knew he wasn't good for you?
I knew it
because of what Grandma said.
So what made you give in?
His charisma and his he was attractive, and eventually we started to do grown folks things, and so that just complicated matters even more.
Mm-hmm.
You about to you sending Melinda back down memory lane.
Going back to Wakanda.
She over there having a connection. She over there going crazy, but back to the point.
Yeah, I got caught up in the grown folks activities.
Let me ask you, Bob, did you ever get in a relationship that you knew you shouldn't have been in?
No, never. I don't get in relationships that I know I shouldn't be in.
Wow.
I mean, okay. So when you say the word relationship, as far as official relationship,
Yeah.
no. I've dealt with people that I shouldn't have been dealing with. Yes. But as far as official relationship, like this is my woman, no, never.
Never, but you
never.
So you said a non-official relationship. So that means basically what you hit something you shouldn't have been hitting, right?
Yeah. I mean, we keeping it real, most definitely.
Yeah.
Those are the situations that
I'm a pastor. I can say hit.
That you find yourself in more. More often than not, to be honest with you. Those type of situations where this person doesn't really let's say, for example, because I'm very literal in situations like that back in the past. Okay,
mm-hmm.
let's make that clear. It's back in the past. Mm-hmm. You get with someone, and the expectations on their end may be higher than what it is on your end. So I'm the type of person where I want to talk about everything. I want to get everything on the table. Look, I want you to understand. We're doing this. If we're doing this for fun, if we're doing this, for temporary, that's what it is, and if that's not something that you can handle, then let's go our separate ways now.
Well, I have to admit, bro, you're the first person I probably met in my entire life. Now that I think about it, when I'm
your entire life?
Yeah, my entire life. You're the first person I met in my entire life that ever been in a relationship that never got in a relationship you shouldn't have been in. Well, I mean, most people. I mean, most people. Any of y'all know anyone that have been in that place? I mean, see, I've discovered like there's something called a noodle phobia. A noodle phobia is the fear of being single. Some people have that; they really don't know it. The opposite of that is called gamophobia.
That's what I got.
Yeah, gamophobia is the fear of commitment.
Oh, I don't have that. Maybe I do.
Which one are you, Belinda?
No, I do. No, seriously, I do think that is my problem. I do think. Yeah.
Some people have the fear of being single, so what they'll do is jump in a relationship just because they don't want to be by themselves, because they look at it as a badge of, being in a relationship is a badge of honor, even though the relationship may be horrible. Gamophobia, on the other hand, people have a fear of commitment, that they'll get in a relationship, but they really won't commit themselves to it. Them type of individual ones that you really have to fear, because they become serial cheaters.
Well, I wouldn't say. I'm not that, definitely. No. When you say like fear of commitment, it's like I get so close to the edge, like I want to be in a relationship, but then I start shaking. Because I don't want to feel that pain that I felt in the past.
Right.
So that's the fear that I have. I am not
because there were some things that were unresolved.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, it's a possibility. But recently, they were resolved.
So Lisa, going back to this, so do you think you had a fear of getting in that relationship like that? You had a fear of being single?
Now?
No, when you think about it now, think back on that relationship. You got in a relationship, back then.
Was I afraid to be single?
Because he had swag, he had all that, and you gave in. And you knew prior to you giving in that he wasn't good for you.
Mm-hmm. I don't believe I had a fear of being single. And I definitely didn't have the flip of that, the not wanting commitment. For as long as I can remember, and this is so funny, and I had this conversation with a friend here recently about how young ladies, how boys and girls, how we're socialized into our gender roles, and how, with little girls, just looking at the toys that are available to us, the baby dolls and kitchen sets and, the easy bake and all of that, we're groomed to want to be, to be a nurturer, to be a homemaker, to be a wife from the time that we start, knowing how to play with toys. And so for as long as I can remember, I've always wanted that for my life. I wanted, commitment. I wanted my own family.
And you grew up with a 2-parent household, right? So that's what your mother showed your dad, and vice versa.
Even though my parents, they did experience, separation and eventually divorce. But I grew up in a 2-parent household.
Right.
So I've always wanted commitment. But at that time in my life, in my 20s, in that stage of my 20s, I can say that I wanted a commitment. And so he was available, he came for me, I took the bait, gladly.
Don't talk about that, babe.
And it just didn't work out. But
That big.
It's babe.
I mean, and he was a good guy, but it was just, something about him that just didn't sit well with me. It just vexed my spirit, in a way.
And see, the reason I'm asking that, because what drove you in it is usually what's driving you afterwards.
Okay.
After you out of it, sometimes that'd be the very thing that that drives you after. So what people tend to do is that they don't recognize, why did I put myself in this situation? Why did I get in it? And then once you get out of it, that very thing that pushed you in it will be the very thing that's driving you after the breakup.
So there probably was a degree of loneliness, at that time of my life. I didn't really have very much trouble dating per se, but I did take my time, and I wasn't running around, just out there. I did things one at a time, but it probably was a degree of loneliness, with a desire to have a companion, to be close to somebody. But I don't think I was, over the top with it. So I guess I would just retract that statement and say there probably was some,
of course. And people don't recognize that. People don't recognize, okay. And that's why when they come out of a breakup, they acting crazy afterwards. And they say, okay, what drove me in a relationship? And you got to figure out these things. Is it a fear of loneliness? Is it a fear of commitment? Because if you suffer from a noodle phobia, which is the fear of being single, so you'll jump into a relationship just not to have that void in your life. So after the breakup happens, because you have this fear of single, you want to feel that void again. You'll go and jump what you just talked about, Bob, jump in another relationship. And now you're in another relationship and all messed up because these things are what's driving you. And so you have to start to examine yourself after the breakup. It's so important.
That's critical.
It's so critical.
That's the critical part. You have to be a mirror looker. You have to look at yourself, because no matter where you go, there you are. And people break up and get in other situations when this person is going to have like something else that you don't like. I think you really have to evaluate yourself more than anything, but even before you break up, because most often than not, it's just yourself that's the issue. You compromise with others, how you relate with others, and that's really what's important to evaluate.
We want to give our callers an opportunity to chime in on this conversation. You can call us at 708-223-8953. Call us and give us some feedback on this conversation. What happens after the breakup? Call us right here at IntellectualRadio.com.
Amen. IntellectualRadio.com. Come on, y'all call in. Give us some of your feedback. So
some questions?
Because, one of the things that, breakups are hard. Let's get that on the table. They're hard, especially when you've invested time, energy. I have this thing, like I'm on this point. I'm in this place in my life now. If I have not figured it out by the second year, at the max of second year, where this thing going?
2 years?
Wow.
The max.
Well, you didn't have to say max.
The max is 2 years,
Okay, geez.
You got to make some decisions. You really have to make some decisions, because the longer you stay in something, the more energy you put in it, the more your heart is in it. And what it becomes is like a divorce. If you have not married that person, to break up feels like a divorce. And divorce is painful, very painful. And that's what I've experienced. I've experienced that pain, and it left me in this place where I didn't know what to do. I really didn't. I lost me, and because you got a question that you laughing at. And so some of the, we don't understand, like the 5 stages of grief is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So when you break up, you come through a breakup, you go through those 5 stages of grief. You start to deny, you go through that stage of denial where you're like, I can't believe this happened. Oh, it's not over. And so now you're living in this state where you're just not accepting things as they are. And then it leads to the second stage, which is anger. Now you're angry. Why did they do that? You're mad at everybody else. Then you start bargaining. Well, if I do this make me feel better. Then when the bargains fall off the table, you're in that stage of depression. So at some point, you have to learn how to sort through that whole grieving process. Now, I have to say this, Alicia, we made comment to your book. And so what was the name we mentioned? And what was that name we mentioned in her book?
David.
We said David. And when we said David, you had this look on your face like he just walked in the room. I had to look outside to see if he walked in the room. Tell us about that.
I promise you exaggerate. No, I promise y'all.
You know the 5 stages of grief is denial, right?
Let me tell you something. I honestly had to think about
because of the book.
I was like, David, who was that? Like, I forgot he put it in the book. I put him in the book. So no.
Was it look of confusion? I don't know what you're talking about, girl. Or was it like a?
I do acknowledge I probably did give a crazy look, you know, because I'm guilty of that sometimes. I'm very expressive.
Okay.
So what was your question again?
Who is David?
Who is David?
Who is David?
Okay. See, he left me. He left me. I'm telling you, David.
So listen, let me tell you this.
But I'll tell you,
David had enough impact in your life to get honorable mention in your book.
Yes, he did, because I wanted someone to learn from my mistake.
That's good.
David, believe it or not, was not someone that I was in love with. He was someone that I wanted to love.
You wanted to love.
Right. And I recognized.
Tell us about that.
I recognized, over the course of a short period of time that, well, first, let me just go back to the beginning. When I met him, just upon initial interactions, within the first month, I knew it was another one of those. I knew this. No.
You got a lot of I knews.
No, I don't.
No, I just playing.
No, I don't.
I just messing with you.
Yeah, I better be. But
I got 10. No, I'm just playing. Go ahead.
I only mentioned one. Now you talking about I got a bunch of them.
I got 10. No, I'm just playing.
Trying to put your body count up.
I know, and I don't have one. But I knew, after, the first month that he and I were not going to become like a real solid thing. So for lack of a better expression, I knew that we were going to be for each other just something to do. Something to pass time, and that it would eventually fizzle out.
So let's get to the root of it. What did he do to earn space in your book? What did he do? Since you didn't really love him like that, somebody you wanted to love or whatever.
Well, I did experience. I experienced a loss because of him. And I'm just being transparent here since it's in the book.
Yes.
But I lost a baby. We had an unplanned pregnancy. And you'll have to read the book to find out how that came about. But
so this is the same guy you spoke of earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
From when I was in my 20s?
Today? No.
No, this is a totally different gentleman.
Totally different relationship.
Okay, this is a totally different gentleman.
Right?
Yeah, this.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Sorry, definitely sorry.
Thank you. I spent some time, coming back down to earth after all of that. I'm a firm believer that we do need time to process.
Absolutely.
And heal in some way. Some things take a little longer than others to get past, but we do have to take time. But
can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
And I'm definitely not trying to be disrespectful or anything, so please don't take it that way.
Okay.
Do you loan for, to have a family or something? Because it's like you got pregnant by the first guy you mentioned, and then now you got pregnant by this guy. Like, do you loan for that?
These were complete unplanned, as in like trying to figure out the best way to say it. But you do what you can to be protected, but sometimes a man is just not. In these instances, he was not. They were not honest. They were not honest. Traps.
Traps.
Last week's topic.
Yeah, that was last week's topic.
Trick,
trap,
relationship,
and a trifling outcome. Okay. And so, to answer your question, my goal was not that with either of them.
Okay.
So getting back to David, wow, that the rest of the question kind of threw me. Right, I'm like, girl, I'm sorry.
He people
No,
like
let me help you. Let me help you because let me help you. Let me help you. No, I understand why she asked that question because I clearly understand why
And
she
I
asked
didn't
it.
take it the wrong way.
Yeah, no, I understand.
My mind went somewhere.
Yeah, that was a great question because some people do things just to, because it's something they want. They have something in them. There's something they desire. Well, let me say it. Your desires come out in your relationship. Whatever you want, whatever you try, it usually shows up in a relationship. And so I understand what she was why she asked that question because maybe there was something you're dealing with, or because there are people out there like that. We're talking, as people engage on social media, and right now they're in that place. They say, "I'm trying to get this. I'm trying to have children. I'm trying to do this." But what keeps happening is that they're putting themselves in these situations, and the end result is car crash. So
I was in that particular situation. I'm so sorry, but that's why I asked you that because I had a daughter at the age of 16, and she passed away from crib death. And when you carry a child or whatever, and you lose that baby, it takes a toll on you. So I desired to have another child. I did, and by the grace of God, I do have a daughter now. So I longed for that. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why I was asking.
Did your lonely days over?
No.
Oh God!
Pray
for her, Earl.
You got young.
Well, I wanted a family, but I wanted to go about it the right way. I just was making bad decisions.
Yeah, of course.
And in those particular situations, they literally were unplanned. In the sense that, based on my experience and where I've worked in the medical field before. I've worked in an infectious diseases clinic. I understand what it means to wrap it up and be protected and be safe and things of that nature. But, sometimes, you run into individuals that are just not going to follow the rules.
True.
They not, regardless of whether or not you stated the rules.
But regardless of what the rule they don't follow, you have to remember you're still in control of you.
Right.
So you have to make sure.
I was not in complete control.
Whether we believe it or not, we are in complete control.
Okay.
We just give in to the pulls, what I call the terrible pull and awful push syndrome. So we get caught up in that place. But because I want us to understand when it comes to relationships, no one forces us in. We get in. We're willing candidates, so we jump in them. Every relationship that I've gotten into, where either my heart was broken or I broke a heart, I got in it because I wanted to. This is what I wanted. This is what I desired. And what happens is that when you have whatever you're trying to look for, whatever you want, because listen, many of us who get in relationships, we want the right thing. We just go about it the wrong way. We get into a relationship. We say, okay, I want the family. I want the commitment. I want all these things, but we do it the wrong way. And then at the end of the session or at the end of the relationship, we find ourselves in this place where now we're trying to put GPS to our lives. Where do we go from here? I'm in this place. This is what I wanted in this person. And I thought I saw it in it, because what most people, you realize it or not, when you meet people can be in love with an idea, but then try to force that idea on you. And they say, okay, well, this person look like they can be my husband. This person look like they can be my wife. And so what I'm going to do, I'm in love with marriage. And so I'm going to make sure that I'm trying to force fit them into that idea that I have in my head. And what ends up happening is that person end up hurt, because just because you have the idea doesn't mean that they are the person for the idea, because the reality is this: if they are the person to fit the idea, they will enhance the idea for you. You don't have to force it on them. They're going to already know that, man, hey, listen, it's going to be the checklist, and you're going to be like, okay, this person's checking everything off. Listen, we're on IntellectualRadio.com. We want to thank you all for listening, tuning in. Before we go, I really want to just give us some clarity. Where do we go after the relationship? And there's just 5 things I want to share with us today that's going to help us. I believe that these 5 things are essential, that will bless your life, that after you come through a breakup. So I'm talking to everybody right now. You don't have to bust the windows out of his car. You don't have to slash tires. Man, you don't have to hide in the bushes and stalk her. You don't have to show up to her job. You don't have to keep calling 355 times in 1 minute. No, there's something you can do to help you handle life after the breakup. And I'm going to show you where you need to go. First thing you need to do, face the facts.
That's good.
Point number one, face the facts. What you have to do is accept that the relationship is over.
Mm-hmm.
Accept that you may have messed up or you've been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Don't live in denial. That's the worst thing you can do. Face the facts.
Right.
You have to face the facts that, listen, this thing may not never come back together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time to start doing something different. Point number two, after you face the facts, face your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Worst thing you can do is act like you're not feeling a certain way. I've noticed this in people. They would say, hey, you know, you be like, you're bitter. And they be like, no, I'm better. No, you're bitter. No, I'm better. Because what happens when people don't face the feelings, they create this world that does not exist. And what's crazy about creating this false reality is that they're not even acting like the false reality that they created. So here it is. You're telling them that they're in this, their reality is bitterness, but they said, no, I'm better. I'm not bitter. I'm not mad over what happened. I'm straight. I'm cool. I got this thing together. But you're doing bitter stuff. You're calling the person 300 times. You cussing them out. You're doing all types of crazy behavior, busting windows out. You're showing up. You're calling exes and all that stuff, or his present girl, talking to her. Face your feelings. Sometimes I've discovered the best thing to do is write your feelings down on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Say, listen, I'm hurt right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm angry right now. I'm bitter right now. Write them down on a piece of paper, because what happens is, like Bob said earlier, it's that looking in the mirror effect now. So now you're looking in the mirror and you're saying, hey, okay, I get it. This is who I am right now. Because the best examination you can give is that examination of yourself. When you get up in the morning, you look yourself in the mirror, because the mirror don't lie. It won't lie. It's going to tell you if you got nappy hair or not. It's going to tell you if your edge is out of pocket.
If you have any.
Or if you have any. I'll just play. It's going to tell brothers if man, listen, dude, you're looking like a clown, or you're a bozo right now. So face your feelings. The third step is forgive. Forgiveness is key. Forgiveness is key. Forgiveness is you accepting what happened. And listen to this. You're freeing yourself from the pain that someone else has caused in your life.
Right.
Absolutely.
And first of all, forgive yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Tell yourself, listen, you know what? I forgive me.
For
doing this stupid stuff.
Or for getting
I
into the relationship
I
that you
forgive
shouldn't have been
myself
in.
for
That's right.
making these bad choices. Sometimes people, listen, guilt will hang you. It will kill you. Sometimes people sit in guilt and they sit around and they're overwhelmed by guilt to the point where they can't even get up off the couch. So forgive that person. And this is what true forgiveness is, that you can see that person and treat them like they never hurt you before.
You right.
As a matter of fact, you will see them with their new boo. And you'll be like, hey, y'all look good together, man. I hope the best for y'all. You know? That's true forgiveness. That's what forgiveness would do for you. Because forgiveness is not for you. And listen to this. When you forgive, don't go in expecting an apology.
Oh, you might not ever get it.
Yeah.
And that's where many of us make a mistake. Well, I'm going to forgive him, but he has to acknowledge, or she has to acknowledge that she's sorry.
Some people just won't.
Just say, hey, listen, I forgive you. No. You know, Father, forgive them. They don't know not what they do. You made a mistake, and, you know, you just messed up a good thing. But I forgive you, and that's it. And I'm moving on. Mm-hmm. Fourth step. So first, number one, face the facts. Number two, face your feelings. Number three, forgive. Fourth thing, fix your feelings. Fix them. How do you fix them? Stop thinking about negative stuff. Start thinking of what's positive. You know, Paul said it best. Whatever's good, whatever's beautiful, whatever's lovely, whatever's good report, think on such things. And sometimes what happens, what you have to do in order to fix your feelings, you have to remove the negative stuff and negative people from around you. Because after you come through a breakup, you have to start rearranging your life.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to have people coming around you who are saying, girl, you should do this, or man, you should do this. Man, they bogus and all this stuff. I'll never forget when I come through this tail breakup, I looked at my phone and I saw our text messages, and they were just foul. They were foul. And I started to get all angry all over again. Some of the stuff that was being said in those text messages. Y'all know about them. Don't you know about them, Melinda? You got to send no bad text messages. You never petty. Nobody would text. Okay, all right. God bless you, then.
I did. I went for the juggler.
So here it is. So what I had to do is erase those text messages. I had to erase them, because why am I holding on to them? Why am I holding on to this negative conversation? All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep reading them, and what's gonna happen? My feelings are gonna get all invested in it again. Sometimes, listen, you got to erase numbers, text messages. You have to cut off all communication. That's so important. You have to get rid of it. What should be around you are happy thoughts, nice stuff, things that remind. What should be around you are people who are going to say good things to you. And the fifth and final step is that you have to form a new you. Form a new you. Face the facts, face your feelings, forgive, fix your feelings, then form a new you. Oftentimes we could go through a relationship, bad breakup, we lose ourselves.
That happened to me, yeah, because I had completely become somebody that I did not want to be. Like after I really looked at me like, Kenyatta, you don't even get down like this. So why? No, So yes, that's good.
And so forming a new you requires, hey man, you might have to get up and go to the gym. Because you don't put on weight, you might have to go and get your hair done. You might have to, change your wardrobe, because oftentimes we come through a bad breakup, we literally lose ourselves. And I'm talking, that's the external stuff. I'm not talking that forming a new you, sometimes sitting on somebody's couch.
Counseling.
And say, hey, listen, talk to my mind. Help me figure this stuff out. I have not been able to figure this stuff out for myself. And so listen, don't form a new you to get back at them. Because sometimes people say, you know what, I'm going to make sure I'm going to go to the gym and get swole. So when she see me in my tank top in the summer, she gonna be all, she's going to be, man, real jealous of me, or I'm going to go and inject all this. And I talked about that in my book, Relationship Real Talk. Ladies, let's talk Relationship Real Talk from a man's point of view, that, that's my another quick plug. Amen. Okay. All right. So here it is. This one woman, she thought that, hey, listen, if I get all this plastic surgery, I'm not doing it to get him back, but I'm doing it to get him back. So I'm going to get back at him. But it backfired on him. So you have to form a new you. At some point, you have to start rearranging yourself and say, hey, listen, I'm getting better for me. Because guess what? If you don't get better for you, it's going to affect somebody around you. And so at some point, you got to get off the couch. You have to go, man, listen, go get your hair done. Get in somebody's gym. Do something. Change your look. Final words, Melinda. Say something.
You just took everything that I was going to say, everything that I wrote in my notes. But thank you. Carry on. Alicia.
My final words. Oh, my goodness.
I just feel like I just left Sunday morning service.
My final words. I'm still finding it interesting. Y'all zoned in on David and that book, all that other stuff I said in the book. Y'all couldn't talk about nothing good. Y'all just want to know who David was. Right. But no, in the final analysis of everything, I think that, when you have a breakup, with any type of relationship, whether it was a serious relationship, something that was going somewhere, something that was not going anywhere, you want to put things into perspective. I'm a believer, and I believe that, we have to gaze on God, and make sure that we do that for the sake of renewing our mind, but we also need to assess our qualities and accomplishments, about who we are, to help us to become back centered in who we are and our identity, to know who we are and understand that just because they were a part of our story, they don't have to become a part of our identity. Just because we had the experience that we had with them, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's who we are.
That's right.
Everybody's gonna have a different perspective about things, if they come to know about it and whatnot. But what's most important is that you assess yourself and you build on good, and then strengthen yourself in the weak areas. But that's what I have to say.
How about you, Bob?
Okay. I'm gonna say what I said earlier. Stay being a mirror looker. Continue to always focus on yourself and what you bring to the table and how you add into the situation. No matter where you go, there you are. That's what I'm gonna stick with right there.
All right. Yeah.
What I'll say is I'll stand strong on those 5 points that you did make. And I think if you do that, you won't find yourself continuously repeating those relationships and getting back in those cycle of relationships. Bad one, breakup after breakup. So just that was good. Sounds like the 5-point preacher.
Listen, I want you all to support Miss Alicia's book called, she's a contributing author to Women Thriving Fearlessly, Volume 3. Arranged by Erica Gilchrist. It's a great book. I think women, you will benefit from it. It's a combination of stories of various women from different walks of life who give their story and their testimony to help women thrive fearlessly in a world that's ever changing. So if you can, please support her. We need to support our own. And I know, Bob, you have some projects coming up.
Just real quick, I would say follow me on Bobzilla80 on Twitter as well as Instagram. I got some projects coming up this year. I'm involved in several web series, and I got a movie, 2 independent movies that I'm working on this year by the end of the year. So just follow me. Be on the lookout for all that stuff. I'll be having it on Facebook, on my Twitter, as well as my Instagram, Bobzilla80, at Bobzilla80.
Amen. So what can they find you, Alicia?
You can contact me at contact A Sanders at yahoo.com to get information about the book.
Okay. And if you guys want to find Melinda, she's everywhere at the same time everywhere, when everywhere is not at the same time.
That's right.
So once you get that address, you'll find out where Melinda is. So listen, this has been the truth, whether you like it or not. And we thank you for tuning in. Look forward to our next show next Thursday here on IntellectualRadio.com, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Facebook Live. And guess what? We are out of here.
My life seems to sing the same sad song. Sometimes when I'm weak is when I'm really strong. We've been endured for a night, but it seems long. Hurt, anger, non-believing. Please, God, I hope that I'm dreaming. I know the face of struggle, the taste of pain. I can't get a grip because it always rains. It's driving me insane because all I know is them brothers on the corner and they slanging rocks and blows. This ain't for show. This is my home. It's broken now because my wife is gone. I'm all alone and I can't get a break. My hopes, they never grew, so now they turn to hate. I feel I can't escape hate. I ain't prominent and can never seem to catch up like a condiment. I'm in the background, but I won't back down. Can't get a job cause I ain't past the background. I'm in hella debt, feel like I'm getting wet. You mean to work, not jobs, do a credit check. The deck is stacked, after that a brother's black. I'm too old to hoop and was never good at selling crack. I ain't eating right, I hate to see the night. I exist, but that don't classify as life. Always did right, but what went wrong? My life seems to sing the same sad song. Sometimes when I'm weak is when I'm really strong. We've been endured for a night, but it seems long. Hurt, anger, non-believing. Please, God, I hope that I'm dreaming.
I'm just an ordinary cat with extraordinary dreams, but in some realities, dreams are non-existent things. I work for $1 million company. I shouldn't hunger, but they don't even know my name. I'm just another number. I go to work every day and I risk my life. 80 stories on a swing stage, thinking about my wife. Listen, my life is dark in the daytime. In my daughter's eyes, it's when I only see sunshine. I'm 23 with 1 wife and 3 kids. The pressure's on me to decide how they all live. So I go to work just to fix glass. It's an everyday struggle to sustain middle class. Can't let the wife know, kids gotta stay proud. So in my prayer time, I kneel down and I cry loud. I stop making fun of bums because life's hard. That could be me if I ever lost my day job. I'm not the only one, I'm willing to bet that most Americans live check to check, but I refuse to live check to check, especially when I got 3 kids. I gotta leave a legacy.
I ain't eating right, I hate to see the night. I exist, but that don't classify as life. Always did right, but what went wrong? My life seems to sing the same sad song. Sometimes when I'm weak is when I'm really strong. We've been endured for a night, but it seems long. Hurt, anger, non-believing. Please, God, I hope that I'm dreaming.
In the midst of destruction, earth spin on the axis. The murder and taxes is high like cannabis in the brains of leaf smokers. They life got them choking, stress got them in a headlock. Now they stroking, numb on the right side. They can't see the bright side of things. Stuck in knots like shoestrings in a Puma. The Numa give me hope. The Chrysler sweat everything from gas prices to light bills. So who getting killed? Of course, what they ain't got. Society's divided and has and have not. They grab Glocks, but you need to grab your Bible. Here, have you hooked, put your notes in the book. And inhale angel dust. You let it permeate. He'll create what you need out your faith. Jesus will blow your mind. He'll show slow the time. He stopped the sun from moving in the sky. Keep doing what you doing. Keep doing what you doing. He love like Kevin and he got something brewing. So play ball. For sure he'll save y'all. The masseuse got your back. Keep doing what you do, son.
I ain't eating right. I hate to see the night. I exist, but that don't classify as life. I always did right, but what went wrong? My life seems to sing the same sad song. Sometimes when I'm weak is when I'm really strong. We've been endured for a night, but it seems long. Hurt, anger, non-believing. Please God, I hope that I'm dreaming.
Days is dim, the loot is real slim. Shoes talking, your shorties need Timbs. Food is rich, you gotta feed 4 kids. The child support checks ain't came to the crib. Daddy shady, bill for another lady. Still married when Brenda had his baby. Depressed, to ease your mind, you smoke sets. So at your interview, you fail your drug test. You fight 24/7 to survive. Shorties cut school to work a 9 to 5. To help moms, they pray she stay strong. Her last day in rehab was way too long. Good life, sure ain't the good life. Even when it's day outside, it's like night. Going to bed in cribs with no heat. When struggling to eat, it's hard to get sleep. Make it some way, someday. Come on, baby, wipe your tears and let God grab your fears. Yeah, we'll make it some way. He always there, y'all. Look up. Look up and call his name and see won't he take your pain. Yo, dude, you working hard for living check to check, making some good money but making more stress. Company downsides, you fired at the crib in tears. You been there for 10 years. Unemployment checks don't meet the whole need. You gotta go grind to feed your 2 C's. Blood, tears, and sweat, you won't vex. And your little girl just said she pregnant. Son run the block, so cold, it's still hot. The hook got dope, but it's at the drug spot. Addiction's a business, it's like a job. Some cats will do it so they seeds won't starve. It's hard, whole families getting high. Doing everything but barely getting by. Just a shot, the streets are so cold. We mourning a murder, he was 6 years old. Oh. Someday, someday, somehow. Dude, I know times is ill, but here make your whole life chill, and that's real. We'll make it someday, someday, somehow. It's hard to make a way sometimes, so let God ease your mind. It's that time. We gon' make it, you just gotta believe it. Someday, somehow, gotta believe it. In the midst of so much life, I see death. But if you get hit this joint, you got breath. So thank God you alive, though it's hard. You got the W, you just got a few scars. Keep it moving, son, and don't you ever stop. You lost some things, able to do the thing, just pray. We all, hey son, just hit your knees and pray. We all getting to make a way. We getting out, y'all. We getting out, y'all. Yo. Someday, 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 someday. Yes, yes, yes. About it ain't about God, then it ain't about peace on. Yeah, it's about God.